everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting. In another episode of the Indie Show tonight, we are kicking off a new series. We're going to be talking a little Rachel Rising. I got my man Unruly joining me. We're going to have a small crew for this. If somebody decides they want to pop in and join us, but I figured this way we might actually not have to reschedule these all the time. It's just a couple of us talking about it. So yeah, I'm taking the easy way out this time in terms of having a big crew, just going with me and my man Unruly. But my first introduction to Terry Moore. So that is where I'm going to start with. We had GT Key. I should, do the chat. GT Key was tailgating. We'll see who else shows up here, but you were tailgating. But so this is my first introduction to Terry Moore. What was your first introduction to Terry Moore? Because I know you're a big fan. What was your first introduction?
Strangers in Paradise, but I wasn't the hugest fan of it.
Okay.
Until later.
Yeah.
What was the one? Oh my God, I can't believe it's. I've got all his stuff. It takes up a whole shelf.
Yeah.
The one where the chick's the mechanic. She's back from the war, and she's got an imaginary gorilla friend. It's awesome. God, I can't. Alec is gonna shoot me for not knowing that.
Something in no, that's not right. Yeah,
it's
I think
something.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember what it's called. That's fairly recent, right? That hasn't been out that long.
10, 12, 15 years, something like that.
Oh, has it? Okay, then maybe it's not what I was thinking of. So,
but now I could be wrong on this too.
Oh, there's Gore. Motor Girl is what Gore was saying.
Motor Girls. Yes, thank you.
Okay. That's older than I thought it was then. I didn't think that was that old. So that is the one I was thinking of.
No, I was wrong. It's 2016, 2017.
Okay. That's more what I was thinking. That it was more recent. Okay.
But reading that drew me into going back and reading everything.
Right. So that was what. So when did you read Rachel? When did you find and read Rachel Rising?
Right after that. That was the next thing. I bought those trades and just gobbled them up like peanuts. And then I went back and read Echo and Strangers in Paradise, and then Serial, which came out last year, which is about Zoe, the little girl, in these first 6 volumes.
Okay.
Oh, it is off the chain good.
What is it called? Serial? Oh,
Serial.
Okay, that makes sense now after this. 2012. I was like, I never did look to see when this was coming out or when this was printed. So 2012. So this is not quite as old as I thought. I thought this might be like early 2000s, but so Motor Girl was your intro. You went through it, then you devoured this. Love this series. All right. So you asked me before we went live of what my thoughts were on this volume. you seem that I think you know what I'm going to say. Oh, you were just laughing in a way like.
No, I know the question, but I don't know what your answer is going to be.
So I'm afraid I'm going to come off during the course of the show being more negative than I am, because I did enjoy it. I am definitely a little confused, but I'm not it wasn't one of those okay, I got to go grab the next volume instantly. It didn't have me that hooked. And I'll tell you why. As we go through it, I'll tell you what kind of dampened that a little bit for me. But I did definitely enjoy it. I did definitely enjoy it. I am looking forward to reading more, but it was not one of those I guess the way I thought about it earlier was I'm intrigued but not hooked, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that's the right. I feel like intrigue's not quite strong enough, but so this is not Fables where John had to beg me to go get volume to get to the second volume. He's like, you need to give it one more volume. This is not Fables. This is but it's not okay, I can't wait for the next page. It was okay, it was solid. It was so. And there's a couple things about it, I think, that held me back from having a stronger reaction that we'll get into as we discuss. So you say you flipped devoured it as soon as you started down it. Why? What was it that hooked you right off the bat?
Well, I really love his line work.
Right.
It's simple but elegant, but it's not simple in a pejorative sense. It's clean is the word I'm looking for. It really appeals to me.
Right.
The character of Rachel appeals to me. She's like, a more mature Betty from Archie.
A little bit, yeah.
So I kind of got a crush on her, just looks alone. And the supernatural aspects, I'm a horror junkie. And it's hard to find good horror. I mean, there are so many more people in regular, prose novels. There's a cottage industry of horror authors that have popped up in the last 20, 30 years. And 95% of them are pedestrian, For me to be surprised by what's coming next is pretty rare. And for me to actually feel just maybe a little bit of a chill on the back of my neck is incredibly rare.
Right.
And this managed to do that.
Nice. I'll have to see what it was in this volume that did that, because I don't think I got that feeling from this volume. But I'm not like I'm very picky about my horror. I am not a big horror guy. It takes I don't like horror for horror, I guess, if that makes any sense at all. But I can enjoy it if it's really good storytelling. But if it's just, trying to be scary, or if it's particularly and this more in the movies than storytelling, or if it's just like I'm not a big slasher movie guy. That doesn't do anything for me. I want suspense, yes. Just excess violence and stuff, no. So I feel like this can go that way. It's one of the reasons I am really intrigued, is I feel like this can go several ways. So it's definitely intriguing. So let's dig into it and get started. And the one thing I will say that maybe one of the things and it's this weird thing I have in that, a lot of times I complain about comics because they move too fast. The pacing is poor the other way. I feel like here he walks the borderline of being too slow, but he doesn't cross it. If that makes any sense. He's right on the edge for me of being okay, move it. Move the story, but he doesn't ever. I never got to the point where I'm it took too long, and yet I felt boy, there was a lot of pages there. We didn't really cover much ground. I guess, does that make any sense?
No, I see what you're saying. He meanders without a doubt, but I like that.
Yeah.
See, to me, the thing about horror is, I've been a Stephen King fan since The Shining. I was standing in the checkout line at a grocery store. It had just come out in paperback. And I read all the log rolling on the back, the critical blurbs. And I was like, this is intriguing.
Yeah.
And now the thing that makes Stephen King believable, and I probably said this before, his ideas are so simple, they border on stupid.
You're right.
Oh, look, it's a haunted car. Oh my goodness, that whole hotel is haunted.
Yeah.
But his characters are so damn believable. He fleshes them out and grounds them perfectly. So you believe that this weird shit is happening to these people that you believe in. And he does that here, but he uses kind of shorthand. And I'm sure you noticed every character in here is, a weirdo trope almost. Not quite tropish, but on the borderline. But that grounds them and makes you believe in them, or at least me.
Yeah. So we open with it's page 10 before anyone speaks. As we get into this. And we open
to be fair,
a lot happens. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna get there, but a lot happens. So with this woman walking through the woods with what appears to be, like, at first I thought they were just regular, and maybe it's just this drawing, but like they look like regular boots, but then it almost looks like there's bags over her boots at one point. But like at the end, and maybe that's just the way he drew them, I don't know. But she walks up to this basically dry creek bed, and a leaf falls on the ground, it burns up, and then a hand emerges from the bottom of the creek or the gully. And this person digs herself out of the mud, and this person just kind of like watches, like nothing's happening. And we get a one little flash of what appears to be someone like strangling her or something, and you can see like a mark on her neck as she pulls herself up out of the mud, and her eyes are like red around her pupils, or I think that's what they're intending it to be. It's black and white, but to me, I just instantly thought they were supposed to be red. And yeah, she like emerges from the shallow grave and wanders off. What were you thinking during this intro?
I was loving it, dude. This is pure horror, you know? A chick digging her way out of a shallow grave. And I didn't know, obviously, upon first reading it, I didn't know that she had, in fact, been killed.
Right.
But it's still an intriguing freaking concept.
Right.
And you know what? I didn't even catch that panel of the killer. But it's later on, she has a little flashback where it's more fleshed out.
Yeah, and there it is.
That's good eyes. I didn't even notice that.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that jumped out at me, like right off the bat, as I was looking at that page. The other thing is, I will state this right off the bat because it confused me for a while. Is like the woman standing on the thing. For a while, I thought it was just like it was her. Like it was almost like. So, and I'm still like a little confused on that. Like what? Like it's almost like because they look. I feel like, and maybe it's just his art style. I feel like they look a lot alike. So
that confused me too, and it becomes confusing. You'll see it later where you're
further,
like,
yeah,
like what the hell?
Yeah,
but there is an explanation.
Well, eventually, I assume there's 9 volumes, so I didn't figure we were going to get that explanation at the beginning, but yeah. So she kind of wanders in, and this guy finds her wandering along the road. And it's like, let me take you to the doctor. She's like, nope, just take me home. And like, and he does, and like she gets home, and you can clearly see at this point, like the mark on her neck that like she's been strangled or tried to be. And I think Gore is also agreeing with us that like the confusion on what the lady looked like, or maybe he's talking about the shows. Love those shows, maybe is what he's talking about. And she goes and takes a bath, and it's like clearly, like even though you don't see any blood on her, really, there's a whole bunch of blood in the shower. Like, and so it's just very interesting. And then yeah, you get more definition of the killer again, of sort of what happened to her. And then we kind of jump back. We get a little flashback to her, like, she's like, where's my phone? Where's my purse? What happened? I can't remember. And we jump back to her basically talking to her friend, who's a mechanic, and trying to remember what happened. So what are you thinking during all of this? I'm just curious, as this is going on, as this is playing out, what are you thinking here?
Well, I honestly don't remember what I thought when I first read it, but I reread all 6 issues yesterday and today.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking this is good character setup. I do remember not knowing where this was going for almost the entirety of it, which, like I said earlier, really draws me in.
Right.
But he's setting up characters. Jet's her buddy, and there you go. Oh, a female mechanic. Oh, she's quirky.
Right. Well, yeah, because at first you're thinking Jet, and it's like and she's behind him or her, and she's been over the thing. It's like you're thinking it's her male friend or whatever, and then it's like, oh no, it's not, which is fine. I mean, it was yeah. So you think that, but we see her. She's like, I gotta find Jet because that's the last thing she really remembers, and she's like, oh, my car's here. So she drives around across town. And I find this interesting this is the only time that she's willing to drive during the rest of this. And I'm curious what role that plays, because she looks like she's driving poorly, or really fast, I guess. And she goes to visit Jet, and there's some other people there, and we get the first Rachel who? And the first person to go, you're not Rachel. Which is, and that's how the first volume ends, is you're not Rachel. But it's clear also because she's wearing all black that there's something, she's clearly different than the girl we saw talking to her friend. Just the way he draws her, the way she's portrayed, the clothes, all of it is, there's clearly something different about her now, besides the fact that we know she's kind of raised from the dead. So basically, that's the first issue. So overall, on a reread, what did you think of that first issue?
I like the introduction of Lewis, who I have to assume is a Pacific Islander of some sort.
Clearly.
And it was his wife or girlfriend that doesn't recognize, or that's what we're assuming.
Yeah.
Because you never really find out a whole lot about Lewis.
Okay.
We see him again, but he's not given any backstory or relationship. Yeah. I love it, man. I just love I love black and white comics. The 80s killed me. Just totally spoiled me for black and white comics.
Right.
And I love him to this day. And he does all his stuff in black and white.
And as somebody who reads quite a bit of Japanese manga, I'm used to the black and white. I don't mind the black and white at all. Because that almost all of their stuff is in black and white. So yeah. So the black and white, I know I could imagine for some people the black and white would probably be, if you're just used to American comics and current comics, would be jarring. Why is there no color? But yeah, I'm completely used to that, so it doesn't bother me at all. It's why when she comes out of part of it, I think it's because I read so much of that stuff. When she comes out of the grave, I'm instantly oh, her eyes are red. Just in my own brain, I'm oh, those are supposed to be red around her pupils. And so get it in the house. What's going on? So then she doesn't find Jet, so she goes and visits the mortuary and is looking for, gets herself let in and looking for Johnny, her Aunt Johnny, who's clearly the mortician in town. And so this was the part that intrigues me at this point, because one of the things that confuses me here is instantly Aunt Johnny thinks she's seeing a ghost. Almost immediately, or just it's her imagination kind of thing. So there's this assumption, to me, I was assuming the way she talks about Rachel, everything as she's talking to her, is that she already knew that she was dead. And yet when they go to the grave later, she's wait, something really did happen to you. There's a little confusion for me in the way this conversation plays out in terms of if she knew anything had happened to Rachel, or that Rachel was even missing because she was gone for 3 days, or not.
Yeah, I get that, but I think it's just her aunt being weird. But that threw me the first time I read it, and it throws me a little bit on rereading it.
Yeah, because it was wait, does she know something happened to her or does she not? And it felt like she didn't. But she also didn't believe it was actually her. And maybe this goes back to the same thing that the other lady was like, but you're not Rachel. Like, there's just enough off about her that she doesn't think it's her. You know what I mean? Or she doesn't think she's real.
Well, and if even 1% of what she's saying is that she's, hallucinated or has a vivid imagination is true, then she might honestly believe she's just talking to a figment of her imagination.
Yeah, I mean, if you work with dead bodies all the time in the middle of the night by yourself, then maybe you really do. Like, this may be nothing new for her to have like somebody who's not there, to have a conversation with somebody who's not there. So, but ultimately it leads to her dragging her out and going to this riverbed, and discovering that something it really is Rachel and something really did happen to her. Meanwhile, in here we get our first meeting with Zoe. And so she basically wakes up in the middle of the late, and her sister's out in the car, and she goes out, and the strange person we saw before that here I feel like doesn't really look like Rachel, but then later I feel like looks more like Rachel. Like it's this weird, like what this person looks like, I feel like isn't always completely consistent. And she's just randomly in the house, and we see Zoe's sister come in, and she just flat murders her. Like, what was your reaction to this? I know you were like, you told me you couldn't wait for me to meet Zoe, and I was like, and then I met Zoe, and I was like, what the heck? That was not what I was expecting.
And then the way she's so nonchalantly, while the chick is still suffocating, like opens up the refrigerator, pulls out a Slurpee, and
like, yeah, because it is extremely violent, and I mean, stretching the saran wrap around her face, and just like, what the heck?
This just see, I've long had a theory that there is nothing scarier on earth than a little girl. If you've seen, remember the remake of Dawn of the Dead?
The remake. I think I've seen it. I don't know. It's been forever.
It starts off with the opening scene, a couple, and there's a little. Is it their daughter?
I don't remember. I don't know if I've seen that one or not.
Yeah. She's about 8 or 9, but she's the first one that gets zombified.
Oh,
and she attacks the husband, and it is brutal.
Yeah.
And then I give you the little girl from The Ring.
Well, The Ring, and then from what? The Exorcist, and yeah. Long tradition of making little girls into scary monsters.
Because it's so completely out of left field.
Yeah.
There's nothing scarier.
Well, she is definitely creepy, to put it mildly, here as we meet Zoe. But go ahead.
Meanwhile, we've got her aunt, and you mentioned it earlier. What I really liked was, no. And she's, Rachel, where's your body? Where's your body? I'm not a ghost. I'm not dead. And her aunt goes, oh, holy shit. And she kind of snaps back to reality.
Yeah.
And realizes this is indeed Rachel she's talking to.
But, she finds hair. And so, and then later, so it's which makes her think it's Rachel, but yet Rachel doesn't look to be missing hair. It's very strange. This whole thing is just very strange. What is going on here? And yeah, and Johnny coming to the realization, that there's something wrong, that this is a real, your eyes, your throat, somebody did this to you, that this is Rachel still moving, but she's not really alive, or she is alive, and a lot of confusion there of what's going on with her. So then she goes to, it just jumps to, I guess she just ditched her aunt, and she's going to the club to meet Jet, who we find out, in addition to being a mechanic, is also in a band. So,
and this disappointed me a little. In a good jazz combo, you're not playing electric bass for all the greats playing upright. Terry
right.
Moore, I'm calling you out. You couldn't consistently draw an upright bass.
Right? Because it's like I thought she was gonna be in like a rock band or something, and then it's like jazz, and it's like, well, it's a drummer and a piano, but they're playing jazz. I'm like, wait, this is not exactly the group. Like you said, like she's got like an electric bass, and it's like, wait, what is happening here? So yeah, that was a little. There was definitely some inconsistency there in exactly what this group was, but so we see her kind of arrive at the club, and she instantly like gets hit on by the bartender, but then she goes into the bathroom and just coughs up hair and mud and like, yeah. And then she meets this other woman in the bathroom, and he's like, Terry, did he play his guitar? Well, then why did he? Yeah, he just didn't want to draw the bass, I guess. So, that's what I said. And she touches her and clearly has a vision of this woman's death. And so, what did you think of this whole sequence with the woman in the black dress?
This is where it gets freaky. And look at the art. You can see there's also the chick that comes out of the stall. Clearly, Terry Moore is not one of those artists that cannot consistently draw different faces.
Right.
So that should tell you, thinking back about the woman, that should give you more clues.
Yeah.
But no, this is freaky, man. Obviously, something supernatural has happened to her. Obviously.
Right. Clearly.
Even though I don't know that I don't think Rachel completely realizes it yet.
Rachel, like, the thing is, she just feels like she's alive, but she clearly was dead. I mean, like, she's clearly like walking around, and yeah, there's just clearly all kinds of stuff going, like, that she doesn't fully understand, and we don't fully understand as the audience. But yeah, so we show up again. So we've seen this woman now 3 times. Once with Rachel rising out of the grave. Once basically like showing up right before Joey killed somebody. And then we see her actually exert some sort of influence on the fiance, the woman in the black dress. Like, because she like clearly like says things to like make him angry, but then we see her touch him, and there's like the smoke, and like, so clearly she has some sort of power as well. And like you said, she sort of looks like Rachel, but sort of doesn't. And like, there's enough difference that I feel like it's a different person, but it's close enough that it's like, but is it? I don't know. Like, that's the whole thing. It's just but we see clearly the reaction of what happens to this guy. He's just like super pissed now.
That's a great expression in that panel.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Paranoia will destroy you.
Yes. You know, like, you know, it's funny because we've seen like the woman in the black dress was all upset, and then like she seems to be like over it and getting back to normal. Now he's like all creepy and weird, and then so we get to see another conversation with Rachel and Jet, and Rachel for the first time sees if Rachel's in black, this woman in white that sort of looks like her follows her up to the roof. And this whole sequence is sort of bizarre to me. Like
you have the last 10 or so pages of the book with incredibly minimal fucking word balloonage.
Again, yeah, we had like 10 pages in the thing, and we got like from the time she goes out, like follows the lady out of the bar, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, we get another, what? I said we had like 10 pages in issue 1, and we're getting We're sticking together. 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, the final 9 pages don't have any dialogue. The final 9 pages of this issue have no dialogue. There's sound effects, but there's no dialogue. We're saying the bar scene is what tipped in. Clearly, the bar scene is like where, like, it became clear that this other woman is some sort of malevolent force that's like clearly causing a lot of what's going on here. But we yet to understand what Rachel's role in any of this is. And yeah, so it's very intriguing. I mean, there's just a lot going on here. But she goes up on the roof. She looks, and the woman that she was following is clear on another roof. And then somehow, even though like she came out on the level where the door was, she sees a fire in the distance, which we find out what that is in a second. But like somehow this other guy and the woman got up on the roof, got behind her and up higher, and throws this woman into her, and they both go flying off the roof. So what are you thinking when they crash it? They both go flying out the roof and crash into the car.
Loved it.
I loved it.
Because I figured that the comic book is named Rachel Rising.
She's gonna rise
and
again,
Rachel's already come back from the dead once. I was pretty sure she wasn't dead again.
Yeah. Right.
But that was so well done. You get a hint of the woman being across the roof from her while Rachel's looking at the smoke.
Yeah.
The chick gives her an evil smile. Rachel turns around and boom, there's a body slamming into her, and she's falling 60 feet.
Yeah.
Onto the roof of a indiscriminate, American sedan from the looks of it.
Right. Yeah, his cars are fairly generic looking. I will say that, at least in what we've seen so far. And yeah, we see this guy, and he also sees the woman on the other roof, and then she's looking at the fire, and we jump back to Zoe, who's like clearly set her home on fire and dragging her sister out to the trunk of a car and trying to drive away. So we open. So yeah, there's just a lot going on here, and none of it is good for anybody. And, yeah, like I said, there's clearly a malevolent something happening in this town. Rachel's clearly connected to it in some way, but we don't really know what's going on. He's like, yeah. And we do get a little humor. The whole interaction where Rachel rats out the drummer and Jet calls him out, and he's like, there is definitely some humor there. But we jump back forward to Jet and Johnny at the morgue, basically there to identify Rachel's body. And they show up and they're all upset, and Johnny's like, I knew it was just a dream, and she visited me and everything else. And nope, and you're right. I knew at this point the whole story's called Rachel Rising. You knew she wasn't dead yet. So,
well, what I like is we get to meet Earl.
Yeah.
Who looks like, what if Zippy the Pinhead, made it to the age of 60? But who is an incredibly important and cool character as the series progresses.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Keep your eye on Earl.
All right. Earl was not one I really paid much attention to, so that's intriguing. So he was not one that stood out to me in these couple of pages where he makes an appearance here. And yeah, so they're sitting there, and she just rises up. And she's like, "Hey, Aunt Johnny," and she's just alive again.
But I've heard Mother Mary Joseph, but I've never heard Ann the Donkey.
Yeah, Ann the Donkey. Mother Mary Joseph and the Donkey. Yeah, that's a new one. That is for sure a new one.
both their expressions are great. Hang on one second.
No, you're okay.
Hey.
So yeah, their expressions are just like, like this big.
I can't have him barking his full head off in a dang hotel.
Yeah. So what we got? You're gonna be an assortment of characters. It's yeah. And
an unholy trinity.
An unholy trinity, yes. So basically, they're trying to figure out what is going on with Rachel. How is she alive? And she's talking about the other body, and they're like, there was no other person. So we see that the guy had quickly grabbed the other woman and dragged her out to the same gully, stream bed, whatever you want to call it. And then it gets weird, even for this, like the snake thing showing up, because we've got no indication that's what's brought Rachel back. And when this woman comes back after the snake, like, my recollection is, I'm going to jump forward a little bit, but she doesn't have the red eyes, does she, or does she not? I don't remember now. And now I can't find a page with her in it.
I don't think. Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she does. Okay, she does have so she has the same eyes eventually later. But yeah, so he buries her in the mud. Like, there's a weird snake, but he buries her in the mud. Like, the snake goes into the woman. He buries her into the mud, and then he's getting ready to leave, and this car that's just beat to hell that comes up the road and crashes into his car. And he's just, like, completely out of it at this point. Like, almost looks like he's drugged out of it. Like, whatever she did to him, it's just, like, got his brain scrambled. And here's Joy. She's like, will you help me? It's like, and I love, she's not getting out of there by herself.
Still wearing her bunny slippers.
Yeah, still wearing her bunny slippers. And
I even though the car is beat up, you have to admire Zoe being able to navigate out into the middle of nowhere using a broom for the gas and brake.
Yeah. And so the funny thing is, she just pulls up to this random guy and just like, he's like, dude, help me with this dead body. like she knows. It's just like, okay, and then we see him back and there's another body out to the same spot. Like, how many damn bodies are in this creek jail at this point? Like, I'm gonna guess a lot before we get to the end of this story. Like half the town before we get to the end of this. And then, so then Johnny's like, we need to take you to the hospital. She's like, I'm alive. She's like, what are you talking about? I feel fine. Like, breathe. And she's like, you're not breathing. You don't have any feeling. Like, you're barely breathing. Your pulse is like basically zero. Yeah. Like, you've been declared dead. Like, what is happening? What is going on? They're trying to remember. And then I think it's kind of funny. Like, she has this totally alive human reaction that she passes out. Like, from all the, like, what is going on. Like, which is usually you get lightheaded, you're not getting enough blood to your brain, that kind of thing. Well, she's not getting hardly any blood to anything. He's like, so fantastic. She has no filter and has no tolerance for stupidity. Well, we're going to see that as it goes on, for sure. Like, she faints, and it's just like, okay. But yeah, Johnny and Jet's reactions to this whole thing, I think, are just, like, are really well played out here, I thought. I thought this was this whole scene of them and Johnny examining her and this conversation, I thought was really well done. What did you think of it?
Well, you're getting to see who Johnny is. Obviously, she's a mortician, a forensic scientist. That's what she believes in.
She's coming from science, yeah.
She's sure there's got to be a logical explanation for this.
Yeah.
And she's just stating the facts.
Yeah. I just love, like, but you can tell she's used to dealing with, although some doctors are just as bad, but you can tell just the way she lays this out that she's used to dealing with, like, dead people and not actual patients. It's just like, maybe it was your bedside manner. It's like overcome by your comforting bedside manner. so we flash back to Zoe and this dude, which I don't even know if we ever get his name during all of this. Maybe we did at the bar and I forget. And
poor dude, now he's snapped out of it.
Yeah.
And Zoe bashes his head in.
It's like, what have I done? And she's just like, okay, you're a liability. And she just kills him. Like, bashes his head in and shoves mud down his throat. Like, it's just crazy. And then she's leaving, and we meet, this malevolent something. She's like, I'm proud of you, Zoe. And it's like, what are you talking about? You made me do bad things. And so you get this intriguing, and Zoe tells her to go away. And she's like, never come back, go away. She's like, what if you need me again? She's like, I'll never need you. And she just smiles and disappears. So you get that for the first time, I think, in the story, like, you get a feel that, like, Zoe, like, clearly Zoe's being manipulated by whatever this is. It's clearly released something in her that was there, but, like, she doesn't want to be a killer, like, at least at this stage. Or she doesn't think she wants to be a killer. We'll see how that keeps going, but
she definitely doesn't want to hurt innocent people.
Right. And, like, she's like, you're making me do bad things, and it's like, I'll never need you again. But so she's left out in the middle of nowhere. We flash back to Rachel, who's been asleep again for like a day plus. And she's at her Aunt Johnny's. And then we see, again, another indication something is wrong. Is the dog like, oh, Rachel, runs up to her. And then all excited to see her. And then, but you get this panel where the dog's like, starts whining and wants away from her.
He does great canine facial expressions too.
Yeah. Like, the dog goes from super excited to like, wait, there's something wrong here. Like, there's something wrong with her. And and so this is still a bunch of Rachel and Johnny trying to figure out what is going on, what is wrong with her. And I love the next scene of her and Jet on the stoop. And like, I just think just the friendship, the way their friendship is portrayed here, this conversation, I think, is just really well done. It's like, who makes a pact to the afterlife? He's like, kids in Manson. So, like, they're all packed. And
that's something we haven't brought up. What a great name for the town where all this is going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Manson. For sure. And you talk about, like, the faces. Like, Jet is very distinct. Like, her face, like, the way he draws Jet is very, like, clearly very distinct from Rachel. And whereas that other face is like, they're the same. But yeah, I just love the way their friendship is portrayed in this scene. And yeah, it's hard to, like, I would say, like, you were drawn to, like, Rachel. Like, it was hard not to be drawn, like Jet in this whole sequence, and the way he sets her up in this book is just like, I was like, oh, this is gonna be my character, and this is gonna be part of why I get hit. I'm less excited than I was, as we'll get later in the story. But
and Rachel sitting there in a tank top in the cold,
yeah,
and Jet's nose, the frost,
her nose is red. She's
the
breathing,
fog coming out.
Fog coming out. Like, it's clearly, like, it's cold, and Rachel is not. And yeah, and she talks about, the waking up in the dirt and being buried, and and she even says there's another body out there, and like this whole, and she's like, you were lying on another body, oh, and I just, the way their whole reaction is, and then maybe easily, like, and I mean from this first panel, the creepiest character in this whole first volume, Dr. Simeon shows up. And this is before we get the reveal later. Like the whole time, like even where he's standing there, I'm like, okay, there's something wrong with this dude. Like,
yeah, his posture, his facial expressions,
like
his dialogue. Never trust a zealot.
Yeah, and the way he's like looking at her and like staring at her as he's like, it's just like, I was like, okay, there is something wrong with this guy. Like, I don't know what it is at this point, but like, well, we find out later in this volume, but you don't know what it is as a reader at this point. But yeah, he just creeped me out from the first panel where he's just a little bit like this little bitty panel at the bottom. I'm like, okay, this guy, there's something wrong with that guy. For sure. And we jump back to Zoe, who's been found and taken to like they're putting her in foster care because she wandered back to the burned down house, and get the impression that like her dad or somebody was still in the house when she set it on fire when her sister was coming in. That like, you know, whoever else was there was also burned up. And then we get another creeper. Like, is there anybody in this town that's not like disgusting in some way, particularly among like, yeah, oh, these kids, they've been licensed, they've taken all these foster kids, and we got to play right into the trope of the abusive foster family. You talked about there's a lot of tropes here, like the Dr. Simeon's clearly a trope, this abuse pedophile foster dad guy is clearly a trope. There's a bunch of these like you talk about, and I love how he's like talking about, he's doing, and so he's like, and the woman comes up behind him, she's like, you're a bad man, you hurt children. He's like, I'll tell Miss Donna. She's like, and this whole sequence, and he just gets thrown all the way down the hallway. Which, does she do it? Does the whatever this woman is do it? Like, it's a little confusing. Like, it almost looks like she just pushes him.
I don't think it's Zoe.
You don't think? You think it's just you think it's actually the woman?
Yeah, because if you look, he gets slammed into a wall again when she's clearly running away from him. Turn the page and you can see.
Oh yeah, he does. You're right. Okay.
But so, and now here's yet another trope. I'm sorry if it's something invisible slammed me all the way down a hall into a wall. I'm going to sit there and collect myself for a moment and not continue to chase the little girl that told me it was going to happen.
Right. She told you bad things are going to happen to you. And then I love how he's chasing her, screaming at her. She's just running from him. And he's like, don't believe a word this girl says, she's a liar. Like, she didn't say anything. Like, he's like completely like ratting himself out in this moment. And then just like, and he falls down. He's trying to get to her. The doors are closing. And elevators won't close like that. But sure, the elevator just happens to close on. Like,
hey, it's an old government building. Who knows?
And the look on her face when he's like, so when I get my hands like, and he's completely ratting himself out, like, so help me God when I get my hands on you, like right in front of the lady and everything. Not that she's really paying attention. And then Zoe just like puts her finger up, like you,
and then reaches out, dink.
Yeah, ding. He's like, whoa, no. And I love how she's just standing there with his head just laying in the elevator. Like, just, just that whole. I will say, like, his art and, like, I feel like it's fairly simple. I don't know if simple's the right word or maybe just straightforward. It's not elaborate. It's not over the top detail. But it's just really well done. I'm very impressed with the way he draws people, faces, reactions. Like, I don't know the best way to describe it. Like I said, I don't feel like it's simple, but it's not like, it's not like, oh, I really had to go for a second. But I do think his art is just really well done. Like,
very clean.
It's clean. That's a good way to put it. It's very clean. And so we see Zoe back on the run again, like she's running out, tracking with bloody footprints, and then we go back to just.
I love how all
Go
this
ahead.
weirdness is going on simultaneously.
Yes, and clearly, like, and again, for me at least, like, we just had 10 pages of a pedophile chasing Zoe. And this expression on this doctor's face is the creepiest thing in the whole freaking book. Like, this guy is just, he's like, she's the angel of death. And they're like, wait, what? And he's like, we both know about, and he's like, it glands, evil doesn't come from our DNA. He's like, it's, this is supernatural. Death is using Rachel to its own end. And they're just all like, what is this guy? And then this panel, like, where he's got it, like, he is just.
Life and death are proper nouns who own us all and do with us as they will.
Yeah.
A check, please.
I'm like, you can go. And he's like, prove it. And he's like, your niece is all the proof I need. And she's like, please tell us about it, Rachel. I have a keen interest in what's happening. She's like, maybe some other time. It's my life and my death. I don't know why they're happening, but yeah. So she's bailing, and they're all leaving and going. I forget where they're saying they're going, but I forget now. But anyway, they all leave, and just like he draws this guy so creepy. It's just, yeah, it's over the top creepy. It's just like, okay, like, could you make any more obvious? And then we see, and this is where we finally get to the woman in the black dress is back alive, like Rachel. So you're wondering at this point, and we don't really know, is there like some sort of snake creature thing inside her too, and it's keeping Rachel going? But yeah, only the snake comes out and like kills this guy when he starts asking questions.
Is yet another trope, Bubba the pervert.
Oh yeah. Well, and the sad thing is, though, I don't think he's really being a pervert. Like, I think he's like actually trying to see if she's okay.
But look at that top left panel. He's got his hand up her skirt.
Well, he's got it on her leg. Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
he does. Okay, yeah, you're right.
I don't doubt that he is concerned. I mean, who wouldn't be unless you're a sociopath?
Okay, I didn't catch that. I saw the previous panel where he had it on her leg. I did not catch that he put it up her. Okay.
But he's still a perv.
Yeah, so I missed that. So I was thinking he was actually trying to examine her and not doing what he ended up doing. So all right, so yeah, I missed that.
But the panel right below it with the snake coming out of the mouth,
that
is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, using tropes to subvert tropes. Yeah. So, and then and then the snake going back inside of her is just like the whole thing is just ultra creepy.
And what made me love it?
Yeah.
That's just a little bit scary.
Yeah. And somebody who's not a big snake guy, yeah, it's like I'm not like I know people that are like deathly afraid of snakes. I just don't like them. Like I'm not afraid of them. I just don't like them. But
well, I'm sort of the same way. You know, I surveyed for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
I have almost stepped on a rattlesnake 5 times.
No.
I have stepped on a copperhead in my life twice, and once on a hoghead. Every time I've almost stepped on a rattlesnake, I have screamed like a little girl. Yeah. Every time.
Oh, I stepped closest I got because I work rivers and that kind of stuff. I do a lot of, and like I've actually like we were on a trail coming out one day. It was like 6 of us, and like 3 of us were already by, and I went by, and then the person behind me stopped and was like, "Oh!" And there was literally a copperhead in the trail that we'd been walking up and 4 of us had went past it.
Dude, they're so beautiful and so perfectly camouflaged. And when you step on one, they're nothing but muscle. They instantly flex.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just rock hard. You look down, you're like, wah!
Yeah. Well, damn, Thanksgiving concerning. Yes. So, yeah. So we've gotten, you know, yeah. As long as I know where the snake is at, I'm good. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of him. No. So they go. So we jump back to Rachel, Johnny, and Jet, and like they're trying to figure out the car and figure out this other person. And Rachel finds Zoe. And like they're legitimately trying to help this little kid, and Zoe sees the woman, and Rachel sees the woman, and nobody else can see her. So this is like we get our first, and again, this is where it really, like, to me, really like reinforced what I thought on that first beginning at the beginning of the book, that they look a lot alike. And she even says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And this whole conversation, again, is just super creepy. It's like, usually you remember something that ruins everything, but this time nothing. And now it's too late or whatever. Like, this whole conversation is just weird. What did you take out of this?
Well, see, it's so hard to remember what you're experiencing because I've reread it so many times.
Right.
But so now it's a part of the story where I'm like, the plot thickens.
The plot thickens, yes. I can get that. And just, yeah, I don't know. Again, this is where I'm at on this. Is, like, I'm intrigued, but I'm just confused enough. And, like, I haven't decided if my confusion is enough to, like, turns me off or it makes me, like, want to read more. Is that, like, you know what I mean? And I'm in this, like, imbalance as we're going through this.
You're not confused. You just don't have all the info yet.
Right.
And that's what made me want to just, because what I did when I got this, I got all those trades at once, and it was one of those, and this only happens once or twice a year. The last time that happened to me was the Straczynski Spider-Man Omni.
Yeah.
Where I just read it. I didn't stop.
You just kept going. Yeah.
And it was the same way with this. The first time I read it, I couldn't put it down.
Yeah. And so we get a flashback because we'd gotten earlier in the thing, we got the little bit of the story about, like, that they burned witches up there near where Rachel's body was found. That Johnny had talked about that with her. And so as she's talking to her and she looks back and then she looks back again, and the woman is now like older clothes. So, and then we get Zoe refers to her as a witch, and like, okay, so it's clearly tying into something with the history of this town. Like, there's some sort of malevolent spirit or something that's tied to this town that is using Rachel for some purpose. We just don't know what it is. Like, what happened to Rachel is using her for some purpose. And so we get to the end of that conversation, and then we get the reveal of, which we already knew, like, and he comes home like he's talking to his wife, and it's just this very pleasant thing, and then you see the reveal of what he's got, like, and how long? 30 years he's been keeping her corpse in the living room. Like, what is happening here? And he's clearly, like, preserved it some way, because it's still, like, but...
Dude, there was a very famous case in Florida, and this was like 100 years ago, where a rich dude did that.
Ugh.
And I don't think he made any efforts to preserve her body at all, but she just laid in the same bed for like 20, 30 years until he died, and people found out.
Oh, geez. Yeah. It was just like, yeah, everything you thought, if you thought he was creepy, yeah, he paid it off right here. And then, so they're driving to take Zoe to somewhere to see what, to try to help her. And she's like, and her and Rachel are talking in the back seat. You can't hide from her. Nobody can. She's like, why not? Because she's a witch, and you know that when she shows up, people die. And then, of course, instantly they're in a car accident, and then this just straight pissed me off. I won't lie. Because I won't lie, like in this first volume, I think Jet was my favorite character. And like we get to this, and Rachel wakes up with like rods of something through her, and she's of course just okay. And we see Jet and we see Johnny both on the ground, both hurt. No sign of Zoe again, at all. And yeah.
I think it's supposed to be Rebar.
Is it supposed to be Rebar? It might be.
I think. Rebar.
Yeah, with all the lines, that makes sense.
And when she snaps it, pulls it out, and throws it down, it clanks.
Yeah, so it's clearly like some sort of so it probably is rebar. You're probably
rebar, right. Conduit, something.
Yeah. So she goes to Johnny. She's like, I can't feel my legs, but she's like, but Jet, that's too much blood. And then like she goes to Jet, and Jet passes, and again we don't see any sign of Zoe here. And I'll be honest, the first time I was confused. Because I thought this was Zoe waking up. And not Jet. Like, because we flashed to the morgue. And even though she was the one that just died, I thought it was like, we just didn't see it. At first I thought it was Zoe, and then I'm like, wait, the freckles, that's Jet. But, so now we have another one awake.
So now we got three dead broads roaming around the same town.
Clearly, yes. And we don't know what happened to Zoe at this point. But yeah, I was still, despite the fact that it's clear we're getting more Jet, I was clearly like, I don't know, that just pissed me off because I was like, okay, there was one like nice, because even Aunt Johnny was like a little weird. There was like one nice friend, normal person, and it was like, nope.
But dude, that was just rereading it for the second time in 2 days. Her dying touched me a little, you know.
Oh,
it was very well done.
Like I said, I was all in. Like, she was the character that I was like, oh, this character, she is cool. I mean, she's a mechanic and she plays band, and she's clearly a really, really good friend, and like for her friend through all of this. And I'm not gonna lie, he draws her super attractive, and it's like, you know, she's just a really good. I was like, and then. Because I didn't know, well, obviously I didn't know that he was about the next page going to bring her back. But yeah, that whole scene where Rachel's like with her as she passes is just crushing.
Yeah, it's a heartstring tugger without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because I mean, seriously, I just reread this less than 3 hours ago when it got me again.
Yeah.
But let me go back to something that you might not have noticed, or I'm sure you did, when Rachel is talking to the evil doppelganger and they have the flashback, she goes, remember the Snow sister?
Yeah, she calls her sister.
And Rachel's sister, like, what? That's a big hint.
Well, yeah, and that's why I thought, well, maybe this is like, and I thought this at the time, and I didn't mention it, but yeah, I thought it was like, okay, so she have a sister that died when she was a kid or something, but then but when she does that, it's when she's like in the olden clothes, so I'm like, so is maybe she an ancestor, or like I don't know, because it's like she flashed back to like, it's very weird, or maybe she's like Rachel's a reincarnation of somebody, one of the witches from back then, or just this weird. I don't know where this is going. So yeah, so that was the end of volume 1. Again, I'm like, even on the reread, I think I feel better about it after talking to you about it. I'm still not completely sold. But I'm definitely, I want to read more to get there. I'm not completely sold, but I'm definitely like, okay, I got to at least see a little more before I make up a I'm not ready to put it down either. To like walk away, like where I was before. Like not, I wasn't before. Like I have been with some things. Like some things I would have read. You read the first volume, you're like, yeah, I don't need any more of this. I was never like that, but I'm still not like completely sold that I'm gonna love this. But I am intrigued, and I do want to read more. So,
I can't remember the name of it. Maybe Gore knows. He just published a work where he took the Strangers in Paradise, Motor Girl, the cast from Rachel Rising, and had them all in one story.
yeah,
I think it was Ever. Was it Ever? I can't remember, but that was really good.
okay.
If you like this, then you're going to love most of his stuff.
Well, we'll keep going and we'll see. But any final thoughts on this first volume on the reread that you've done the last couple days?
See, I'm glad that you like Jet because Rachel is all mine, brother.
Well, I like Rachel as a character too, but I just like I thought Jet was going to be our grounding to the normal, like was going to be, so I was already like invested in her being the grounding piece for this. Like
ain't no normal, ain't a
well, yeah, like she was going to be the thing that helped ground Rachel and keep her attached to, because whatever it is, like it clearly to me is like Rachel could go at this stage, whatever's like bringing her back or could like causing her to go through this, that she could go completely like evil, dark monster thing with whatever, like that she may not end up being like who she was. And like there are people are saying, you're not Rachel. Like she could become something that maybe she doesn't want to. And I thought Jet was going to be like, okay, but she's going to have this friend that's going to help. And it's like, no, Jet's going down the same, whatever this road is that you're both. And so, yeah, I was just like, and I'll be honest, like the first time I flipped through it, when I flipped the page, initially I thought it was Zoe. I was like, oh, and that little monster gets to live, like come back to life. And I was like, and then I was like, wait, no, it's not. It's because it looks super young. Like the face looks super young. Like right here, to me, it did at least initially. And then I was like, no, that's Jet. Because of the freckles. Because Zoe doesn't, I'm trying to remember, like Zoe is not that, it doesn't have freckles at all, does she? No, she doesn't.
No. Hey, remind me, it's not going to be for another couple of shows, but I've got a page from this.
Oh, yeah?
And I'll bring it with me and show it. And I've also, like Moore does once a year, or he has for the last couple of three, he'll do a bunch of sketches, like say 100 sketches.
Yeah.
And it's coming up in a couple of months. It should be. And he sells them and he gives like half the money or a good percentage of it to some charity.
Okay.
And I got last year, there was a great Rachel sketch of her laying, not dead, but like kicked back against her own tombstone with the marks on her neck clearly visible and her eyes real prominent.
Yeah.
But it's like he releases them in batches on these 2-day period, and I wasn't quick enough to get that.
Dang it.
But I got a great headshot of Zoe.
Nice. Okay, well, we're over the hour. Like I said, for me, like, this wasn't enough that I'm like, okay, this is great. I gotta read all of it, but it was enough that I want to keep going for sure. And I think it could get there for me. It's just like, I don't know. I'll be honest, like this last page was just like crushed a little of the momentum for me. I was like, oh no.
You're gonna love the next couple of issues.
All right.
But look, I lost my train of thought. Never mind.
Oh, you're okay. Well, with that, we're gonna wrap it up here. I want to thank Gore for hanging out with us, the Art Chemist for hanging out with us. Sharon stopped by. I think several people have already left, but thank you for hanging out with us. 62 Lefty Blues was here earlier. Appreciate it. We talked for an hour on this one volume, just the two of us. So yeah. So obviously we liked it enough to like talk about it for that long. So we will catch you guys next time later.